Wait. We back? YouTube is drunk. Starlink went down for like 10 seconds and then YouTube decided, okay, stream's over, wrap it up. And even though they have a giant end stream button at the top of the stream, if it doesn't see a connection, it instantly ends it anyway. I'm like, what's the point of that button if you're going to end the stream regardless? Okay, we're back. Take two. Where were we? What were you asking about? Where was the chat when I... Oh, gee. Brother. It's working now. The stream cut out for like a few seconds and YouTube instantly was just like, oh, okay, let's turn it off now. Even though there's a giant end stream button. I thought that was the point of the button, was that you could officially end the stream when you wanted to. Instead, they're just like, no, I don't see it. It's Starlink where the service is intermittent, but something about savings accounts, bonds. Oh yeah, bonds are don't have high interest rates, but certain stocks do, and certain mutual funds do. But Ben keeps telling me about more stable cryptos, but I want to know how long they've been around. What cryptos are you recommending here? I still use my Ridge wallet. Yes, I love it. We were talking about how you love super chats. No, that one. Oh, there's Rockford Media with the super chat. Thank you. What made you want to make the video about Neuralink? I hope to see more of those videos. Neuralink has always been kind of on the top of my mind, but I just felt like the tech audience was more oriented towards Apple and AirPods and Apple Watches and that kind of thing. But I've always been interested in that type of new technology, of that type of like radical, like tapping into the brain and changing our perception of things. I have a lot to say on the subject, but I didn't really know a great time to introduce it to the tech channel because there's so much Apple news people would rather talk about. But I realized to be completely frank with you guys, I was like, I am completely out of tech video ideas. It is so dry in the tech field right now. I notice a lot of tech channels, I mean, they don't upload as much as I do, but a lot of them taking breaks and waiting long pauses before uploading videos, because it's just like, there's only so much crap we can talk about. And there's only so many tech videos we can make that will actually have something interesting to say, which is why I was like, where are we going with this, honestly? Are we going to talk about Apple making their own 5G modem in 3 years? Like, really? Are we going to do a video on that? Like, there's only so many different directions we can take it in the first place. Where can I look up US data? How long has this been around? Well, see, this is what, okay. Ben is saying USDC, which has not been around for 10 years yet. That's what I mean by it's kind of new. Also pretty volatile so far. All have ways of earning passive income via decentralized finance programs. Interesting. I know fairly little about it, but I'm just looking at the value of it, and it's quite it's quite all over the place. It picked up some value in 2015 and then tanked for a while and then shot back up recently, and then it tanked back down again. Doesn't really scream steady value based on what I'm looking at here. What's another one? USDT. Also not very steady. It's also not very old. This has barely been out for 6 years. So what does that mean? Decentralized finance. It's following the US dollar. Okay, so why invest in that instead of just holding the US dollar? What's the difference? Why not just invest it into a mutual fund or an index fund that you know is going to grow a certain percentage on average each year? Is there like a crypto equivalent of dividend? Is that what I'm misunderstanding? Have you ever thought of doing tech videos on looking back at tech, like retro tech stuff? I've thought about it. A few people have suggested it. Alpha the Wolf super chatted. Thank you. He said dying of laughter after the big YouTube fail. I guess that was funny, I guess. Um I guess the dollar isn't very old either, right? I mean, using the dollar as our standard, no, but it's a bit older than these cryptos. Um exactly that. What's the interest rate you're getting on those, Ben? I'm curious. Okay, I gotta pick a question. I don't know, the retro tech stuff I have done on occasion. I did like a original iPhone review a few years ago. For one, I've never found them that interesting because it's always just like, I don't know. It's always just like, yep, this was what it was back then, and now it's better, but this is actually pretty good. I don't know. I feel like I have a lot of old tech, but whenever I try to go into a review of it, it's like, well, it's old, so it doesn't work very well anymore. I feel like in concept it sounds like there would be a lot to say. In reality, there isn't that much to say. That's the way I see it thus far. Um, you just kind of be like, yeah, I remember this. I don't know. To me, like, I'm very much a futurist. Like, I'm excited to talk about what's next, what's going to happen next, what's the future, what's going to happen and what's not going to happen, and what design trends do we think are the future, and what are we going to end up being wrong about? Because something that always fascinated me about like Back to the Future 2 is how much we get wrong. And I think there's a lot of things that people believe will be the future that don't end up being the future. Um, and I've watched it happen myself. I mean, there's a lot of things that people think are like, oh, this is clearly a futuristic thing. And I'm like, nah, I don't think it is. I remember when Apple first unveiled the Apple Watch and everyone was like, oh, okay, so now the Apple Watch is going to replace the iPhone. And I was like, no. I get why a lot of people think that. They're like, no, you won't need a smartphone anymore because a watch can do everything. And I'm like, but they're different, because they complement each other. It's not just one or the other. So yeah, there's lots of, same with crypto. I feel like there's a lot of people just assuming that that's going to be the future of everything and not understanding the complexities of it becoming a standard. 5G, that's another good one. Why don't you buy a Tesla now since it will cost you the same as if you wait 3 years? I don't think it will, Ian, to be fair. I think if you look back at how much Teslas have costed over the years, the general trend has been down. I mean, there are occasions where they increase the price. That just recently happened. But generally, they are planning on making a $25,000 Tesla within the next 3 years or so. And I imagine that one, similar to how Model S's devalued pretty quickly once the Model 3 came out, because you could get a Tesla that was arguably better in many ways for much cheaper. I think the same thing could happen whenever that Model 2 launches, especially if Battery Day goes according to plan and they ramp up the 4680 batteries. That typically means you're going to get 3 years from now, the Tesla lineup will have better range than today for less money. So I don't know exactly where you're getting the perspective of it will cost the same as if you wait 3 years. What do you mean by that? Like 3 years ago, Teslas were much more expensive than they were today, especially at least with the Model 3. 3 years from now, we should be looking at Cybertrucks and cheaper Model Ys and Model 2 by then. So I don't know where you're getting that. But the reason we don't buy a Tesla now is because we wouldn't use it. It would sit in the garage all the time. Whereas if we invest that money into the stock market, we get pretty high interest rates in return. So I have an iPhone 4 that still works perfectly. Yeah, I have a few iPhone 4s actually from old friends and stuff. I think I have like 3. But yeah, it's cool to like pick up an old piece of tech and play with it. Like, whoa, how did we used to do this? But as far as making videos on it, I haven't found a great way of doing that. I haven't found a very interesting, or what do you say after a while? You're just like, oh, the camera's okay, but not as good. And the iOS is dated. It can't update anymore. It's like, I don't know. Maybe I should try again. I am running on empty when it comes to tech video ideas because there's so little to talk about, and we've kind of dug every rumor and every leak into the grave. You know, we haven't gone much further. So, yeah. Yeah, just meme about 5G, I guess. That's all we can do. I bet the Tesla won't be exactly 25K. It'll probably end up being like 27 or 28K, but that's still amazing. Let's see. Okay, Ben says exactly that. It's a safer way of getting higher dividends, essentially. On the higher risk coins like ATOM, I'm getting around 10% per year. Let me look up ATOM. That's not that much higher, to be honest. Let me look. Ooh, yeah, that is risky. I mean, ATOM has been around since 2016, so it's not terribly old, which means it's kind of hard to predict. I mean, it skyrocketed up recently, yes, but then it went right back down. So you don't know where that's going to go after because, again, there's not a whole lot of history to base off of it. But we've gotten just most of our family and friends hire out. There are companies that will do investments for you and promise you a certain return rate, but we don't like having a middleman because it's like, what information do they have access to that we don't? You know, we can analyze the stock market just as much as they can. It's all online now, so acting like they have some kind of inside info, I don't know. Some people do it, but we're just trying it out on ourselves. We are typically getting higher than 10% with our category. I guess we haven't reached a year yet, have we? We started investing in May of last year. So we're still relatively new, which is why I wouldn't give anybody advice to it. But I've not seen the right things yet, I guess, to be convinced that investing large amounts in crypto, tiny amounts you're okay with losing, I don't mind. But generally, with the catalog we've been investing in between the high dividend Vanguard funds and a lot of individual stocks that we invested in, it's a pretty high return rate, which I'm happy with. Anyway, so much finance. I'm going to lose my mind if they make the Model 2s 25K. Probably not at first, my guess. Like when they unveiled the Model 3, they said it would be 35K, but it didn't become 35K until 2019, and then they took that option away. So it was temporary. It didn't quite hit 25K, but it probably won't quite hit 25K, but it'll get around that ballpark. Probably sub 30. I wouldn't be shocked if it's just below 30,000. It's more like 28,000 or so. But the range will be better than they think, and the car will be a good deal and stuff. I wish I had like an old iPhone 6 to keep in my car, so I'll always have CarPlay available right when I start the car. It's pretty cheap to get those. 27K Tesla still ain't bad. No, a 30K would be great. You can find one for 35K used still. Yeah, but it's only like $1,500 cheaper than buying new. So I think most people would rather have the new for like $1,000 more. You don't want to save like $1,000 and have to buy the vehicle secondhand because then you got to transfer titles and get the ownership transferred and all that. So if it's that close to the new price, then people aren't going to bother. Okay. Ben says, I'm talking about passive income, which will compound like interest. I'm less certain about the actual growth return of the coins. That's why I haven't put amounts into the risky coins. Yeah, I get what you're saying. We do the same thing with stocks. I'm just saying there are stocks that you reinvest the dividends and you get the interest rates off of them and put that back into the stock and it compounds upon itself, but also they have many, many decades of experience, not like 4 years of experience. So it's a lot less predictable when the crypto or whatever is only 4 years old. There's a lot less data to work with and estimate, okay, where is this going to go? How many people are going to invest in this or pull out of this? You don't exactly know. Whereas if you have 40, 50 years to go off of and you can see a general trend there, that's a bit different, especially if you're doing like retirement accounts like we're investing in, things we don't plan on accessing for another 30, 40 years. Looking at only 3 years of history is a bit unpredictable. So that's why we're not as into crypto, but I don't know. I need more time. I'm willing to watch and see what happens, but not put in huge amounts now because it's just so unpredictable tested yet, in my opinion. Let's see. Other than for battery life issues or performance slowdowns, I don't know why I'd want to upgrade from my iPhone 11. No, don't. Hold on to your phone as long as you can. That's to your benefit. Have you seen the Huawei P50 camera lens? My God, they're gigantic. I think I did see someone post that in Discord. That made me laugh. It's like freaking like golf ball sized camera lens on the back. that was pretty funny. The meme is becoming real. Rockford Media super chat. It says, did you invest in Tesla? Also, I built a camera from scratch with a Raspberry Pi. It's really cool. Really? From scratch? That's kind of interesting. Yes, I did invest in Tesla. I won't say how much I've been asked to not say, but yes. Okay. When do you think it makes sense to buy a Tesla Semi? Asking for a friend. If you plan on hauling tens of thousands of pounds of cargo between multiple locations. So, yes, get one. Mike, you need one. You could probably haul a lot of horses with a Tesla Semi, Mike. I think, you've already bought this small one, right? Like, if you're willing to buy one of these, why not buy an actual Tesla Semi, right? Like, at this point, look at it. It's beautiful. It's the most gorgeous vehicle I've ever seen. Centered driver, and you could do convoy mode. That would be fantastic. Who's my guest? You're my guest. I'm interviewing the chat. What iPhones do I have in my collection? Yeah, because that's a much more interesting subject. I've got an iPhone 5C, an iPhone 5, 3 iPhone 4s, an original iPhone. I think that's it. Pretty much it. Convince my wife to buy more horses and the Semi will make sense. Okay. Done. Next time we meet up, I'm going to convince your wife. You need more horses. I'm going to do like a whole Billy Mays infomercial. But I'm not done yet. Call now and I'll triple the offer. Thoughts on SN10? People always do that. They're just like, thoughts. They're like, I don't know what I'm asking. I just put thoughts on on something. Starship SN10. Thoughts. Yeah, it landed and then it exploded. That was cool. I liked the landing part. I didn't like the exploding part as much. It's like, is there a whole video to make there? How much do you think you have spent on tech overall, and do you regret anything? I regret more renting my old office than tech. There's not that much tech I regret buying. Collectively over time, I don't know, probably like $15,000-$20,000 if you put together every iPad I've ever bought, every iPhone I've ever bought, and my iMac Pro. It's probably not that high. It's probably like a disappointing amount of money. It's like, oh, I thought it would be much more than that. The iMac Pro is like the most expensive Apple product I've ever bought. Everything other than the iMac Pro was like, okay, I bought a MacBook Pro for $2,500. I had a 5K iMac with the iMac Pro for a while. It was like, how much was that thing? I think it was like $2,000 or $3,000. All the iPhones were about $1,000, but most of the time I sold my last iPhone to pay for the next one. So I really only ended up spending like $200 on the next one. So yeah, I don't know. It's probably, I'm guessing, around 15 to 20,000. Let's see. How do you find European manufacturers all coming out now with full electric cars? How do I find them? I think that's not what you meant. Like, how do I feel about them all coming out? It's great. I want more EVs as much as possible. I think that's what you meant. In terms of like, how do I find them? I just like follow different news sites like Electric or Teslarati. Tasmanian is a good one. There's a lot of different EV sites. Just go on Twitter. They'll tweet about them. If they make a heavy-duty Cybertruck like a Ford F-350 or 450, my wife would go for it. They've done that. It's called the Tesla Semi. It totally exists. And it has a full steering wheel, so your wife will love it. And it has gear stocks. So, hate to break it to you, sounds like the Semi is a much better deal than the Cybertruck. Just saying. There's no way around it. Just react to the SN10 video when you have completely run out of ideas. I tried to react to the SN10 launch. It was the most frustrating thing. So the reason I can't plan my days around Starship launches is because there's so many false alarms. There's so many scrubs and delays. So I tried to stream my reaction, but then they called it at the last tenth of a second, and they were like, oh, we're going to recycle in 2 hours. But even then, you don't know if they're going to cancel again. And we had things to do. We had errands to run. We were going to go to the grocery store, and we were going to drop off some stuff at my wife's friend's house. So we had to go, and I wasn't going to be like, no, honey, we can't go. This might launch, or it might not launch. But I just want to make sure I'm recording when I do. So we left, and we were running errands, and I had my wife watching SN10 on the launch pad for me. I was like, okay, if it launches, just tell me what happens. I had to drive the car, but she was in the passenger seat just watching the SpaceX stream. And then it took off, and then right as we got to the point where we were at the grocery store and we parked, the stream froze. It was like the one and only place I've ever been where Mint Mobile didn't have good coverage and the stream would not load. So I couldn't see what was happening. And I was just like, so we were like getting groceries and trying to do stuff. And I finally got to a part of the grocery store where I had a signal and I saw it land, but it was at like 144p. So obviously I wasn't able to document my reaction. So it was very frustrating though, because I had a solid connection everywhere else. Like it wasn't buffering the entire rest of the time we were driving around. It was we could see everything. We watched it take off. I mean, I wasn't watching it. I was still driving, but I was really, really hoping I would be able to watch it land, but it just kept buffering and loading, and I couldn't do it. But I tried. I really tried, but it's not the type of thing that's easy to just plan my entire day around it. Like, okay, if they scrub, I'm just going to keep working for the next 2 hours, and I'm just going to keep watching the stream and wait around, and then it gets scrubbed again, it gets scrubbed again, it gets scrubbed again. So it's tough. It's tough to document, but Rockford Media Super Chat, it says, would you rather have a maxed out laptop and a base model desktop, or a max desktop and base laptop? I'm going for max laptop, base desktop. I would think the desktop maxed out would be faster than the laptop maxed out. And the laptop you would most likely use for me, I prefer using a keyboard and mouse for like my workflow. So having a maxed out keyboard and mouse setup, whereas the trackpad and keyboard setup I'm not as efficient with, which is why if I'm going to have a laptop, I don't care if it's like not that powerful, because I'm probably just going to be using it for YouTube and social media and email, whereas the big machine I'm going to be using for work. So I'd rather that be maxed out. But you do you. Thank you for the donation. Let's see. Elon replied to me yesterday, Flex, that might use transparent aluminum on Starship. Oh, that was you. That's right. He's responded to multiple of your tweets. Eric X space. That's awesome. That's cool. Yeah, that was frustrating. I wish Mint Mobile has normally had great coverage. I found like the 1 square foot of space they didn't have coverage. Laptops and tablet, have they peaked in innovations? Yeah, pretty much. You can just make them a little bit faster, and you can get them a slightly better dynamic range display. But yeah, for the most part, there's not a bunch of huge stuff they can do. Tablets can just get better software, but that's about it. Let's see. You're not much of a gamer, but is there a game out there that catches your interest? Honestly, no. I'm trying to think of one, and I genuinely can't think of a game that I even have a slight amount of interest in playing right now. Legit, I'm thinking. I'm trying to come up with an answer for you. I've just kind of gave up on gaming. The channel and the activity. I messed around with Mike's PS5 for a while, but yeah, nothing. I mean, it was kind of neat, but nothing I would spend money on. I wouldn't spend $1 on all that stuff. Huh. Maybe I'm missing out on a lot. I don't know. Or maybe I'm saving a lot of time. Who knows? Play Outer Wilds. It's literally the most fascinating game I've ever played. Okay. Well, I'm sure I'll get a ton of recommendations if I asked. I've never heard of that one. What's it on? What do you play that on? We Party You is Drew's favorite game. Oh, No, that was so frustrating. Every part of the game, someone else comes ahead. Someone's asking how Louise is. I think she just got on her break, which is why I was about to end the stream. Yeah, she doesn't like coming on at the last minute, so don't read much about it. Okay, well, I just need to know what it's on. I don't even know if it's on a platform I can play on. But anywho, it's been fun. I'm gonna have to download most of these streams and stick them together in order to get the Talks podcast up. But yeah, you can listen to these on Spotify and Apple Podcasts after the fact. But I appreciate all the super chats today. I don't know why everybody's super chatting, but thank you very much. This was fun. I'm sorry for the Starlink interruption. Normally that doesn't happen, but when it was working, it's working pretty great. I don't think Tesla will be dethroned, reads Tech. That's my last question for today. I think that's why I believe in them and I'm so excited for them, is because based on what they've shown so far, I don't think they can be dethroned. That's kind of the insane advantage they have. But anyway, thank you all for tuning in. Hope you have an excellent rest of your day.